Okay. There's supposed to be a chat box here. Write a comment. Okay.
Yeah, the other side.
We will start shortly. I have to get the texts.
All right, I'll be right back. The Mother's Day brunch, did you use good turnout? The men's club.
Not really.
Yeah, it's put on by the men's club. The flyers are out there. Yeah, I know. I saw that. Are you with the men's club? Not really, but I'm a member. But never mind, it's not a club.
No, they don't get a lot of people.
You know, talk to Tom Fox. I know. I used to take my mother to the. They don't do it every day.
There was a number of years they stopped doing it, but now they started doing it again.
To the Mother's Day brunch at the Oaks Club down in Milford.
Oh.
You know the Oaks Club?
Yeah.
How you doing? All right, I think he's from here.
No, Romania.
I'll make the maps.
Next week you should wear your Mets cap to counteract Rabbi's Yankees cap.
I was thinking about.
Okay, everybody. Sorry for the delay.
I don't want to fight.
Not an argument, just a representation.
It's okay. Both teams are doing well over there.
What are we talking about?
I can't pronounce it too well.
Not you, but I'm talking about English.
Go ahead.
Okay, it's just stuck with me from the last week. That poor kid that got
They
zapped
spoke in German.
Yes,
because he was too young.
well, there were
That's what he was teaching.
right. There were two stories about a youth of some kind who was either teaching or studying, and was understanding the Chashmal so well that the Chashmal burst forth into the world and destroyed and killed the child. Yes.
That's what my first question was. What was it called again?
Chashmal.
What is it specifically, without bursting into fire, please? Oh, I guess you're old enough.
So you're asking me what the Chashmal is?
Do we know?
Well, that's what the Gemara is trying to figure out.
Oh, they did. So, poor kid was zapped.
How are you? Good. How are you doing? All right. So the Chashmal is some form of fire, some form of divine fire. We don't know what that is. Ezekiel sees it. It's a word that doesn't exist anywhere else. The rabbis of the Talmud try and do philology or etymology on it. They try and say, what does the word mean? And they break it apart into Chash and Mal. And they say, these are actually heavenly beings. These are some form of divine creature coming from God, presumably with some form of power. But then they have these other two stories about the kids, where it seems to be much more like the fire that kills Aaron's sons, Nadav and Abihu. It's this kind of dangerous power, right, that destroys in a fiery way. But we don't know. They don't come to a consensus. They don't come to a conclusion. They don't tell us, and that's what Chashmal is. And then they move on. And then they move on from there to Isaiah and Ezekiel having different kinds of visions of God on a throne, and they compare those and try and find out, is it the same vision or a different vision? And they say it's the same vision, and then they move on.
I assume this is not a concern today.
So we're not going to spend a lot of time worrying about Chashmal killing any of us. Right? That's right. We don't think that Chashmal is a realistic threat
Okay, that's my point.
to us in our study.
Okay, good. Or anybody's studying.
What we're going to see actually is in a couple of weeks as we move forward in this chapter is very soon we're going to get into Elisha ben Abuya. And in this chapter we have some of the history of Acher, of the great heretic of the rabbinic tradition. And I think that we're in the middle of a construction zone, it seems. I think that the concept of the fire destroying an innocent Torah student in over his head is actually a metaphor for Torah destroying somebody and causing their heresy, killing them spiritually, killing them as a Jew. So we have in Elisha ben Abuya, we're going to have somebody who studies and masters Torah, but also something in him takes the Torah in the wrong direction, such that he becomes a denier of the beliefs of Judaism. But he continues to study Torah, and his Torah study leads him to that heresy in a number of ways. And I think that the destruction of the young student is anticipating the destruction of the master. right? So I really think that Gemara is using this as a symbolism or as a metaphor to prepare us for the dangers inherent in Torah study and the danger inherent in getting it right or getting it wrong. So I don't think there ever was a kid who was killed by the Chashmal. I don't think that that happens. That's not my belief about the world. I don't think that there are divine powers of fire that burst forth and kill people. I think when that happens in our sacred literature, it's coming to teach us something about the danger of the activity. And the danger of the activity in sacrifice is clear. The danger of the activity in Torah study you would think is innocent, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's actually as dangerous or more dangerous than anything else that we might face.
So the takeaway is we need insurance to be here.
Well, the synagogue is fully insured. I guarantee you that should a divine fire burst forth, that your families will be well compensated. I'm not worried about it. It's not that I'm not worried about it for lack of faith. I have profound faith in the power of God in our lives and so forth. I just don't think divine fires burst forth as a result of our Torah study. It has to be a symbol. It has to be a metaphor. Okay? So that's where I am. All right. So we are on, let's see, we were on 13a. We started with Rav Yehuda, and then we had the incident on the bottom of 13a of the child that got burned. And we went up to 13b. And let me just skim a little bit here and get to our spot, because I didn't put a mark in. So we did the Chayot, yes, and did Reish Lakish, my dichtiv. What is the meaning of Ashir Lanai Ga'o Ga'o? We did that, so into the middle length lines. We definitely got that far. We did the face of the adult and the face of the child. We did the four wings covering the eyes, covering the body, covering the legs. We did all of that, so we're getting to the bottom of 13b. And then we saw Ezekiel and Isaiah. And I think Tanya Rebbe Omer Mishum Abba. That would seem to be about where we are. Oh no, we did that. Thousands and thousands? Okay. So let's pick it up there because that's been, we could do a little chazara. So in the long lines, where's the Tanya here? La Kashya. Kam bizman Beit HaMikdash Kayam, v'kam bizman Beit HaMikdash Kivyachol. All right, so if you go to the bottom of page 13b in the Hebrew, you count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The sixth line from the bottom on 13b. The last 13b. Now I'll find it in the Sonsino for you. Okay, on the 13b in the Sonsino, if you find 14a, the last 13b right before it, first word on the page is temple was no longer standing. We are going to be on the right side of that page where it is taught, Rabbi said in the name of Abba Yossi Bar Dosai.
The last paragraph.
Okay? So in the Sonsino, it's the last page of 13b, the paragraph on the right, it is taught. And if you're in the Hebrew, we are 6 lines from the bottom of the page on 13b. Okay. Tanya. Everyone with me?
Yep.
Okay. Tanya. It has been taught in Baraita, in a Mishnah age source that's not in the Mishnah. Rabbi Omer Mishum Abba Yossi Bar Dosai. Rabbi, meaning Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, the editor of the Mishnah, says in the name of Abba Yossi ben Dosai the following. He says, Elef Alafim Yisham Shune Mitzpar Gdud Echad. 1,000 thousands were serving him as a single legion. Gidudav Ein Mispar. But there is no number to his legions. So it's a little bit of an argument about whether or not you can count the number of servants that are in the presence of God. It's like surely his servants are innumerable, as opposed to another one who says 1,000 thousands are serving by his side. Well,
10,000 to the 10,000 power.
Okay, but that's not an irrational number. If it's 1,000 thousands or 10,000 10,000s or whatever it is, that's actually a number. So the argument is it innumerable or is it numerable? Okay, we're not going to stay with what the number is long. because this is getting us to something else. This is getting us to a verse that talks about a stream of fire. The stream of fire is something that they're going to be discussing in another page. So this is a bridge moment. It's just supposed to raise a topic. But the context of that stream of fire topic is whether or not you can count the servants of God. And Rabbi Yirmiyah ben Abba said, Elef alafim yisham mishune linahar dinur. 1,000 thousands are serving him to the stream of fire, or the river Dinur. But they think that this is a river of Nur, which is light or fire. Okay, so that's Shne'emar, and now he's going to give a quote from Jeremiah 23:19, where it says, Nahar di Nur, Naged v'nafek min kadamohi elef alafim yisham mishune. A stream of fire was flowing forth from him, 1,000 thousands were serving him. V'ribo revavin kadamohi yekumun. And a myriad was standing before him. So in other words, there's a number and there's a stream of fire. So the Gemara now gets distracted by the stream of fire, and that's why it's here. Mehecha napik. Where does it come from, this stream of fire? Because obviously a stream of water comes up out of the ground. Where does a stream of fire come from? Miziatan shel chayot, and it comes from the sweat of the chayot. And so we were talking about the chayot. This isn't animals. This is the chayot HaKodesh. These are those angelic beasts that we were talking about when we said chashmal is being quiet and speaking. And it's the chayot that are sometimes quiet when God is talking and sometimes talking when God is quiet. And we had this image last time of these angelic beasts, and they're called chashmal not because they're fire, but because they're talking or quiet. But since the chashmal means these chayot HaKodesh, and we have a story of a stream of fire as God is being revealed, this Gemara text is going to say the stream of fire and the chayot are related to each other. Okay? That's just where the Gemara goes. There's not a strict line of logic here that says, oh yes, this is where they had to get to. This is just where they got to. Happens to be where they are. So take it at that. Olehechan shafich, and where does it empty? Where does the stream of fire empty into? Otherwise we would see it running around the world still. Amar Rav Zutra Bar Tuvia, Amar Rav Zutra Bar Tuvia said in the name of Rav, Al Rosh Rishaim Begehenom. This fire pours down on the heads of the wicked in Gehenom, which for lack of a better term you can call hell. So it's the bad place with fire after bad people die. Shne'emar, as it says, Hine sa'arat Adonai chema yatz'a v'sa'ar mitcholel. Behold, the storm of God, a fury goes forth, a tempest shall seek rest. Al rosh Risha'im yachol, it will rest on the head of the wicked. Okay, so it's a pretty good verse, right?
Where's it from? You know?
My guess with a verse like that is it's going to be Daniel or Jeremiah or Job. One of them. Oh yeah, definitely Nevi'im. It's not Torah.
Depict hell always with fire. You know, because of this is this why they depict hell as fire.
I think they depict hell as fire because it's one of the most painful things we can imagine. And people who want evil people to suffer forever, it's a logical thing to choose. So multiple traditions have this concept of fiery torment. In Western civilization, Dante's Inferno has kind of cornered the market on this imagery. But these texts are much older than Dante's Inferno. Okay. Now, Rav Acha Bar Yaakov Amar, he comes in, and he says, Al asher kumtu, on those who were, and what word do you have in your translation?
Pressed.
What?
Pressed.
Pressed?
Those who pressed forward.
Those who pressed forward.
Interesting, because I knew this was going to be a translation following Rashi. On those who were ordained, meaning who had become rabbis. This is the art scroll following Rashi. But those who are pressed, they are pushed down. Shne'emar, as it says, Asher kumtu velo et. Those who were, and translate it, what's your translation?
Before their time.
They were. What happened to them before their time?
Whose foundation was poured out as a stream.
Mm-hmm. So their foundation was poured out before their time. Nahar Yuksat Yisodam, their foundation was swept away by, and this is by a river is the translation, which doesn't make a lot of sense. A Yesod is a foundation. Yutsak is poured away or swept away. All right, so they're playing with these words of a river and a stream, and they're tying it in with the fate of the evil and fire and Gehinnom, and they haven't really gotten anywhere. This has kind of thrown a lot of stuff against the wall, throwing a lot of spaghetti on the wall, and then we're going to see what sticks. Okay, so they're going to have a few different teachings that pluck at some of these images, and then we'll see what the Gemara is getting to. Okay, there's nothing here in this paragraph that is a smooth flow of logic for you. All right, now we go. Now we're going to get a baraita. So here's another thing. Tanya. This baraita is Amar Rabbi Shimon HaChasid. Rabbi Shimon the Chasid said, Elu Shamaot Shiv'im Va'arba Dorot Shekumtu Lehibarot. These are the 974 generations that were to have been originally created. Okay? Kodem Shenivra Ha'olam V'lo Nivra'u. They were to be created before the world was created, but they were not created. Amad HaKadosh Baruch Hu V'ushtalan B'chol Dor V'dor. The Holy One got up, proceeded to plant them in each and every generation. V'hen hen azei panim shebador. And they are the chutzpahdik people in every generation. So what is this? This baraita is that there was a belief that there was supposed to be another 974 generations from the creation of the world to the giving of Torah. 974 more generations than there actually were. If you go through and you count up the number of generations, I think it's 26. Right? If you just go one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, so you only get about that many. And this is saying that we're supposed to be 1,000 generations from creation to the Torah, but those 974 were never created. Instead, they were dropped down amidst the generations that we do have, and they're the bad people. Okay? So obviously they wouldn't have been good people for 974 generations, otherwise one of those generations would have deserved to be given the Torah. So for there to be 1,000 generations, it's 1,000 undeserving generations.
That explains why we have bad people in the world.
At that time. Now that we have the Torah, it doesn't explain anything, because the Torah tells you how to be good. So if you're bad, it's your own fault. Right? Because you know what's good and bad, because the Torah has been given. That's a whole other thing. Like, how can Adam and Eve be punished for eating the tree of the knowledge of good and evil if they haven't yet eaten of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, so they don't know that eating the tree is bad? So how can they be punished if they didn't know the difference before they did it? Okay, it's a whole other thing. These are the thoughts that kept me out of the really good schools, right? You say this in the interview and you're dead. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar, and Rav Nachman, the son of Yitzchak, says, Asher kumtu livracha hu dichtiv. So it's playing with the word kumtu. Did it mean oppressed? Did it mean ordained? Does it mean cut down? And he's going to say, Asher kumtu, they were cut down. Is written as a blessing. Elu talmidei chachamim she mekamtin atzman al divrei Torah ba'olam hazeh. And this is where Rashi got the concept that these are the people who were ordained, not the people who were oppressed, because it's referring to talmidei chachamim, Torah scholars, who cut themselves down, who oppress themselves, who shorten their whatever, as a sacrifice for their diligence in constant Torah study. So the commentaries here will say this is for the lack of sleep, that they shorten the amount of time that they sleep, and that's a sacrifice to stay up late and studying Torah and so forth. Ve'akadosh Baruch Hu megalei lehem sod la'olam haba, and so the Holy One, blessed is He, reveals the secret of the world to come to them. So they will eventually get into the world to come, where all things are revealed to them, and anything that they didn't understand in their Torah study, they'll be rewarded by being shown all of the secrets of the world. And the only way to get to secrets here is to deliberately mistranslate the word yesodam from the verse, their foundations, and make it sod, yesodam. So instead of it being their foundations, which is what the verse meant, it's their secret.
That's a pretty big change.
It is a big change. It drops the yud completely. Yeah.
What do they do with it once they get it? I mean,
They live in eternal bliss in the presence of God, complete with all their Torah knowledge forever. there is no greater fate for the Torah scholar. Eternity in the bliss with the crown of Torah on your head for all time. Gemara above mentions 1,000 angels who serve near a stream of fire. That's going to become our topic. Marle Shmuel lechia bar Rav. Shmuel says to Chia, the son of Rav, Bar Uriah, son of light, ta'e malach milta. Come, I'm going to tell you something. Mahani mile me'aluyuta de hava amar avuch. From among the many things, wonderful things that your father used to say, Kol yoma v'yoma nivra'im malachei asharet min ahar dinor. He would say that every day, all the ministering angels are recreated out of streams of fire. Ve'amre shiro vatle, and they sing their song and cease to exist. Shnei amar chadashim levkarim rabba emunatecha, as it says, and it new every morning, great is your praise. So he's saying that the praise is recreated every day, and therefore, since it's recreated every day, it has to happen and then cease, and then happen and then cease, which means every day God is creating this, and he's going to interpret song itself as being an angel, and he's going to interpret angels as coming from this stream of fire. Okay? He doesn't have proof text for this stuff. This is a Gadata. This is like legendary material. Ufliga de Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachami, and Rav disputes Shmuel bar Nachmani on this point, De Amar Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amar Rabbi Yonatan, for Shmuel bar Nachmani said in the name of Rabbi Yonatan, Kol dibor v'dibor sheyotze mipi HaKadosh Baruch Hu nivra mimenu malach echad, who said every word that comes out of the mouth of the Holy One is a created angel. Shnei Amar b'davar Adonai shamayim na'asu uveruach piv kol tzeva'am. It says, and the word of God, by the word of God the heavens were made, and by the ruach and the breath of his mouth, all his hosts. Called Siva'am. So he's going to split this, that by the word of God the heavens are made, and by the breath of his mouth all his hosts. His hosts are his angels. His angels are created by the breath of his mouth. The breath of his mouth is his speech. Therefore, his speech creates the angels. Logical. Okay. Fanciful and logical. Ketuva Echad Omer. Now we're going to start arguing about a quote from the book of Daniel and a quote from the Song of Songs. The book of Daniel and Song of Songs are not customarily books that we argue very much about because there's no halacha in them. There's nothing in Daniel or Song of Songs that tells you how to kasher your kitchen, or how to put on tefillin, or when to say your prayers, or any of the mitzvot. They are not books that have mitzvot in them. So when the Gemara comes and it takes a quote from Daniel and a quote from Song of Songs and plays them off each other, you are in full-blown agadata, full-blown legendary realm. That doesn't make it false. It doesn't mean it's less believable, true, or important. It just means it is a creative, imaginative expression of how they are going to try and play with the eternal truths that they all agree upon. And then the things that they don't agree upon, they're going to try and make these legendary things reflect more favorably on their own view on the topic. So the topic now is the origin of angels. So they're going to play with these to try and play with this concept of the origin of angels. Okay? Katuv Echad Omer. So first we're going to get Daniel. Livushe kitlag chivar. This is Aramaic, of course, because Daniel's written in Aramaic primarily. His garment was white as snow. Usa'ar rashe kamar nekeh, and the hair of his head was like clean wool. So his robe is white, and his hair is what color? White. Also white. Okay, uchtiv, however, in the Song of Songs it says, kavutsotav tautalim shechorot kaorev, but his locks of hair are wavy and black as the raven. So now I have two conflicting verses. Is God's hair white, or is God's hair black? Kiv yachol. La kashya, not a difficulty. We can resolve this. Kan b'yeshiva, Daniel is talking about God in the yeshiva, and kan b'milchama, and the Song of Songs is talking about the God who exists in battle. Now, does God have hair?
Not really.
No. So obviously these are going to be metaphors. What does it mean to be a white-haired person? Old. And a dark-haired person? Young. So the answer is God in the white hair is God of the yeshiva, and God of the dark hair is God of war. So what are you talking about when you say God is of the yeshiva or God is war? God of the yeshiva is old, God of war is young. What does that mean? What attributes are at play in those settings?
Yeshiva would be wisdom.
Right, wisdom. Right, the wisdom of old age in the yeshiva, and as opposed to the dark-haired God in war, virility and power and physicality, right, to deliver and battle and conquer, right? It's nice.
They're talking about God here. It sounds to me, just reading the English translation, I couldn't follow the Aramaic. It felt to me like they were talking about the angels in this portion. It doesn't say specifically.
I think it's the Kaddish Baruch Hu. Okay, so you're saying that we had Shmuel Bar Nachmani talking about the angels coming out of his mouth. And then it just says, Katuv Echad Omer, Levushe Ketlag Chiver, his garment was white as snow. Us'ar Roshe Kamar Nekeh, and the hair of his head was clean wool. We know in Daniel that Daniel is talking about an image of God there, in the context. And then in Song of Songs, it's actually the shepherd girl talking about her beloved. But we know the rabbinic interpretation of Song of Songs is that the shepherd girl is Israel and her beloved is God.
Yeah, but that's using the proof text as proof that this statement is about.
You have to already accept that it's about God for the whole flow of the argument to make any sense. Because Daniel's talking about God with white hair, and then Song of Songs is talking about someone with black hair, and they see it as a contradiction and resolve it by the role the person is playing in the yeshiva in the war. So you have to go with the fact that they're presuming Song of Songs is an allegory of the children of Israel as the shepherd girl and the king, God, being the beloved on high. Which, by the way, is one of the earliest references to that. Like, Rashi has completely developed that allegory. And so it's tempting for a scholar to say, well, with this full-blown allegory, it's a Middle Ages kind of thing, but it's not. The presumption of this passage, which is relatively old in the Talmud, is that this allegory is completely accepted. This is the normative reading of the rabbis of Song of Songs. It is not a lascivious story about a girl and her king sneaking into each other's bedchambers at night. Right? Chas v'shalom, it should be that. Right?
Every male teenager's dream.
La kashi, it's not a difficulty. Kam b'yeshiva, kam b'milchama. Okay, Damar Mark, because Mar said, In lecha na'e b'shiva el zakein, nobody is more desirable in the yeshiva than an old person. Ve'ein lecha na'e b'milchama el bachor, and nothing is better in battle than a youth. All right, Gemara goes on. Katuv echad omer. One verse says, Karsebe, I'm sorry, Shevivin Dinur. His throne, his Karsei, is a fiery flame. Okay? Dinur. Katuv Echad Omer, and another verse says, Adi Karsavan Remiv Ve'atik Yomin Yativ. And another says that I saw the thrones, plural, were set up, and the one of ancient days sat. So here we have, in these biblical verses, from Daniel again, you've got conflicting ideas. Is there one throne, or are there two thrones? Right? And so we're trying to resolve differences. This whole sweep in these 2 or 3 pages of Gemara are taking physical prophet images of God and resolving differences between them. We have contradictions between Isaiah and Ezekiel, no contradiction. We have contradiction between the 4 faces with an ox, the 4 faces with a cherub, no contradiction. We have a contradiction of the face of a man or the face of a cherub, no contradiction. We have the contradiction of one throne, we have the contradiction of 2 thrones, and they're going to say no contradiction. Right, so what we're doing here is we're going through all the most problematic imagery of God on a throne, and we're solving supposedly all the contradictions. The underlying concept of God on a throne does not get resolved. It's only contradictions in how people describe it that are being dealt with. Okay? Good? How are they going to solve it? La kashya. Echad lo ve'echad leDavid. One throne is his, one throne is for King David. Okay? And an answer is echad lo ve'echad leDavid. Okay. What do we got next? Oh, sorry, that's Divrei Rabbi Akiva. So those are the words of Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva resolves it by there's two thrones. God only has one. The second one is David, which Daniel does predict future kingdoms. That's a big piece of his prophecy, so it's not out of the line of imagination. Amar lo Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Rabbi Yossi Aglili is going to really give it to him, though. Akiva, ad matayata ose shechina chol. How long are you going to profane the divine presence? Right? What Ella echad ledin ve'echad litzedakah. Rather, one throne is the throne of justice, and one is the throne of tzedakah, charity, or in other rabbinic sources, we'd say the throne of mercy.
Here it says the one for grace.
Fair enough. That's a Sunsino. That's a good British word from the Sunsino translation, early in the 1900s. So one for justice, one for grace, one for justice, one for charity, one for justice, one for mercy, something like that. What is Rabbi Yossi Aglili saying to Akiva?
That David doesn't belong there.
Oh, he says, why do you keep saying stupid things? Basically, he says, why do you keep interpreting things in this manner? Right? And he really just gives it to him, like you're calling the Shekhinah Chol. And he says, Ad Matai, how long are you going to keep doing things like this? There's a real nastiness to the attack, that Akiva is talking in the wrong, outside of his realm of expertise, which for Yossi Aglili to talk to Rabbi Akiva that way is stunning, and it's stunning in a variety of levels. First of all, because Rabbi Akiva is the foundation of the Mishnah. So the line of students from Rabbi Akiva gets to Yudah Nasi and creates the Mishnah through the school of Hillel. So Akiva founds Hillel, Hillel founds the line of the Mishnah. So the Mishnah is, in its essence, a Rabbi Akiva document. So you're not going to get something like this in Rabbi Akiva, but what you get here is you get a Baraita, and now it makes sense, because what's a Baraita? A Mishnah-age teaching that doesn't make it into the Mishnah because Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, who's from the school of Hillel under Akiva, left it out. Now we know why some things get left out. Right? This makes Rabbi Akiva look not so good. Okay. Kibla mineh or lo kibla mineh. So the Gemara says, did Rabbi Akiva accept Rabbi Yossi Aglili's rebuke, or did he not? Tashma, we're going to learn another baraita from the cutting room floor. Echad l'din ve'echad l'tzedakah, one for justice, one for charity. Divrei Rabbi Akiva. So now the Gemara comes in and it says, the stam of the Gemara says, I've got these baraitot out here. And one is saying that there's multiple thrones and it's resolved by Rabbi Akiva in a way that he's rebuked by Rabbi Yossi Aglili. So did Rabbi Akiva accept it or not accept it? Well, I have another baraita, also on the cutting room floor, that I found here, that actually takes the resolution of the Rabbi Yossi Aglili baraita and puts it in the words of Rabbi Akiva. Meaning he accepted Rabbi Yossi Aglili's rebuke. Now, that only makes sense if you line them up this way in editorial fashion. It could be an alternative form of the teaching. Rabbi Akiva might never have been rebuked by Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Rabbi Akiva might have been the one who taught it's one for justice and one for tzedakah, because justice could still be God and tzedakah could still be David. Right?
Okay.
Get stuck with David.
Well, don't ask Uriah the Hittite, but okay, fine. No, David was very generous. In rabbinic parlance, he's very generous. He has, the guy at his table who comes in. He's got all kinds of.
Truly, it's a complex person.
He is a complex person. Okay. Amar lo Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Elazar ben Azariah comes and says to Rabbi Akiva, Akiva, malacha etzel Agadah. So what do you have to do with Agadah? Klach midabrotecha etzel nigaim ve'oholot. You think Yossi Aglili was rude?
Yeah.
Now this is super rude. He says, why are you spending time on Agadah interpretations? You should stay quiet until you're done teaching Nigaim and Ohalot, which are two of the most detailed, pedantic topics in the halakha. Their laws of purity, their laws of mitzorah, their laws of tum'ah, a dead person dies in a tent with a hole in the top? Does the tuma convey from the dead person to the people, or does a hole let the tuma out? And all kinds of tiny practical retail end of the business details. And he says, you should, and by the way, these are the ones for which there's really no Gemara. There's no Talmud on that stuff. The sixth order of the Mishnah doesn't have Gemara. So it's really an insult's insult. Why don't you finish the Gemara on these little detail texts over here and leave the Agadah to people more suited to it? It's a tremendous insult, right? To Akiva of all people. Ela echad l'chisei ve'echad l'shraf rif. So he thinks he's got the answer that is so clear that only an ignoramus could possibly have said the things he said before. And he says this is a chair, one is his chair and one is his footstool. Kisei le'shev alav, the chair is for God to sit on, and shraf rif lahadom raglav is for his feet to rest on. Shene'amar hashamayim kisi va'aretz hadom raglai. The heavens are my throne and the earth is my footstool. So he says it's a purely agadic thing of these two thrones. It's not even two thrones. It's a throne that are the heavens and a footstool that is the earth. And so we've really come completely away from an image of a person with some color hair sitting on a throne, right? And it's pure agadah. Okay? All right. Let's see what happens. Ki ata Rav Dimi. This is not a throwaway line. What does it mean, Ki ata Rav Dimi? What's your translation?
When Rav Dimi came, he said.
Okay. What does that mean when Rav Dimi came? Who's talking?
That's hard to figure out.
Okay.
Well, when he came, isn't he the one who would be talking?
Where did he come from?
Well, it says in the footnote that he came from...
Oh, you're reading the notes. Cheater, pumpkin eater.
That's what I was doing too.
All right.
He came from Palestine to Babylonia.
Yes, he came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel. Okay, so now you have to remember, what is Gemara? Gemara is the Babylonian academies in modern-day Iraq, in Sur and Pumbedita primarily, studying the Mishnah, which was written in the land of Israel. Okay? How did the Mishnah get to Babylonia for them to study it? It came from the West. And it didn't travel on its own. People brought it. Rav Ula brought it. So the earliest levels of Gemara, if you want to find the history of the Gemara, which paragraph was written first, which paragraph was written second, all that kind of stuff, you have to see who the players are and when they lived. Ula brings the Mishnah to Bavel. And it initiates a whole series of argumentations and fights that creates the need to know what's the background material for the Mishnah so that we can evaluate and understand this wonderful text. And the background material for the Mishnah are the Baraitas. So you have this interjection of Mishnah into Bavel from the West, and they go seeking in everybody's library for other teachings of those people from the same time, and they juxtapose them over and against their study of the Mishnah to try and understand fully what God wants of us.
But the Brisa never made it to the
The
Mishnah.
Braita didn't make it into the Mishnah, but it made it to Bavel. Somebody had a notebook from the class taught by Rabbi Akiva, and they wrote down things Rabbi Akiva taught.
Wasn't there a Yerushalmi?
Good. So in the north of Israel, there's a Talmudic process also going through the 200s and the early 300s, and then the north of Israel gets destroyed in a cataclysmic earthquake in the 4th century, and everything falls apart. And the teachings that are of the Palestinian Talmud, or the Jerusalem Talmud, Palestinian is more accurate because this was never from Jerusalem. It was from up by the Sea of Galilee, by the Kinneret, and up in that area. But that also gets brought in. And so Dimi is in the wave of people who is bringing Talmudic teachings from the north of Israel also to Bavel. He's post-Mishnah. He's Talmudic, he's an Amora, he's bringing teachings from the West that are Talmud teachings, and they're becoming part of the tradition of Talmud study in the East, which we call Bavel, Babylonia. Okay? So, this seems like a throwaway. When Dimi came, but you need to know, this is big. Right? Somebody, what do you do when somebody gets off the wagon train in Bavel, and they've come from Eretz Yisrael? What do you want to know? What's the first question they're going to ask him?
What did you bring with you?
But what are you looking for?
Books.
Books. You don't want tchotchkes. You don't want the little olive wood things. You don't want a little carving of the Temple Mount. Did you bring any books? Do you have teachings from the land of Israel? Right? That's what they want to know. So this is Rav Dimi. This is what Rav Dimi does. And there's a lot of times that Rav Dimi evidently brought quite a library with him, because there's a lot of different passages that are when Rav Dimi came.
You know, it sounds like all of those teachings that didn't make it to the Mishnah are of an equal footing with
They
the
are.
Mishnah.
They are. Rav Dimi might be bringing materials that can solve problems that they've been having with the Mishnah, because he's bringing texts that are just as authoritative. If he brings a Baraita they've never seen before, it's from, because it's not Rabbi Yehuda Nasi who's writing the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi is codifying the Mishnah from authoritative materials that are more authoritative than he is. So if you go and you pull from his teacher, you can overrule him, because his teacher is more authoritative.
Editor, not a
Uh-huh.
writer.
Well,
But you're right, still, but
that's a scholarly argument. How heavy a hand does Rabbi Yehuda Nasi have when he edits the Mishnah? Very real argument in academics. I tend to believe he has a very heavy hand. People who are more pious than me believe that he has a very light hand. But there are, and you have people writing books and journals exactly on that topic in the last 10, 15 years. How heavy a hand did he use?
How did they coordinate the two? You know, one was written here and the other was written there.
In 2,552 pages of Talmud. That's exactly how they coordinate it. That's what the Talmud is doing. That's why we read in a Mishnah, and then we hear in a Gada, and then we bring a biblical verse, and then we bring a Baraita. Right? We bring a Baraita in after all that other background material, because the Baraita and the Mishnah conflict. And we need to know all the background to understand how they're conflicting, because the whole purpose of Gemara is to understand the Mishnah. Right? And to understand the Mishnah, you need to understand the Baraita that the Mishnah is not.
Yeah, but that sort of de-sanctifies the Mishnah, doesn't it?
not at all. Why? It amplifies it. It is the source text from which everything comes forward.
The Mishnah
And-
the Mishnah cannot be understood to be an infallible revelation of God at Sinai. It can't be. There's no. I don't care where you are on the spectrum of Jewish belief, how fundamentalist or non-fundamentalist you are, how pure your faith or not. The Mishnah cannot be understood as an infallible revelation of God, handed down perfectly to Joshua at Sinai, to the men of the Great Assembly, and down to us, and printed by Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. The Mishnah is a deeply human document. The Baraitot and the Talmud are based on the concept that the Mishnah may have mistakes in it. The Mishnah may have brought forth teachings that are specific to certain circumstances without saying they're specific to that circumstance. So you'll completely misunderstand it if you're reading it from a different circumstance. So the Baraita has to come in and show you what the circumstance was. The Mishnah itself is not, the Torah is much cleaner.
It's sort of a general guide.
It's not a general guide. The Mishnah is definitely revelation. It's the writing and codification of our people's understanding of God's will in all of these areas. But I'm saying it can't be seen as an infallible document, that these words in this order, were spoken by God to Moses at Sinai. That if you by bringing the Mishnah out of that category, am I de-sanctifying the Mishnah? Well, I'm not, because my theology of text is broader than just the things God said. The things that we've said in response to God that have guided our people for centuries are also sacred,
But not revelation.
but not necessarily revelation. And that's the way the system works. That's lo b'shamayim hi. Revelation ended with the text as given. but revelation is ongoing in the study of those words. So we are now the ones who have Torah in our hands. This room is the place of revelation. We are Ben Akruvim. This class is revealing the will of God. And God is at work with us. The Shekhinah is in the room. I believe that.
The Mishnah does not try to denigrate the Torah.
No.
It just tries to interpret it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sorry.
possibly to widen the meaning
Mm-hmm.
of the Torah, but never to say
The Mishnah's
that the Torah
purpose,
is wrong.
never ever. The Mishnah will never say the Torah is wrong. The Torah comes from God. The Mishnah is always trying to understand, how do we live the way the Torah wants? How do we live the way God wants, as he has told us in all of these books? So when the Mishnah brings Daniel and Song of Songs, and one's got white hair and one's got dark hair, the Mishnah is never going to come in and say, well, it's just Daniel. Daniel is still from God for the Mishnah. That's the theology. Rabbinic theology is of a dual Torah. You have the written Torah and the oral Torah. And Mishnah believes it is the oral Torah. Right? It is still Torah. But what I'm saying is that oral Torah does not need to hang its hat on every individual word and letter as presented in the text we have in front of us. That the teachings of the Mishnah are revelation, yes, that is Rabbinic Judaism. That these words are specifically exactly how it was conveyed from time immemorial, no. That's a view of text that really doesn't fit anything but the Torah, which you're writing in the scroll exactly these letters in this order. The rabbinic system constantly challenges, is it this word or that word? Is it this vowel or that vowel? Don't say banaich ela bonaich. There's puns. The fact that you can say yisodam has to do with the word sod. The rabbis know the word yisodam has nothing to do with the word sod. They know Hebrew, but they're interpreting. They're saying it's coming to give you a sense of another feeling. They knew they were creative, and their creative endeavors are also revelation.
So why do they discuss angels and thrones? I mean, what does that have to do with daily life?
Well, first of all, God is involved in daily life, and the power of God is involved in daily life. So when they talk about angels and thrones, they are tapping into what they believe to be real forces that we can draw upon in our lives. Right? And they don't want to make mistakes, which is why they have stories about people making mistakes getting thwept. Right? Because they want to be very clear, because heresy leads to very bad places. And they don't want to make mistakes. So they're going to spend time on it, because they're the experts. People are turning to them. Like you could go to your mechanic and say, do you think that the angels covered their faces or their legs? And you're not going to get much of an answer. Right? But you're going to go with the rabbis are the ones who have to be the experts in this area, so they're going to spend time on it because it matters. I think they might have been just as happy if never an angel was mentioned in Tanakh, but angels are mentioned, so they have to deal with it, and they have to take it very seriously.
I think another important thing is in tefillah, when we pray, there's an enormous amount of aspects of angels. I mean, even when we begin the Shacharit service on the holidays, that we say about the king sitting on the throne, and I mean, this is how we begin the. So it's forward or backwards, right?
Right. The prayers we say on the holidays were written after the Gemara.
Right.
So
I'm saying this,
I mean, except for the Amida and the core stuff that you can find in Mishnah Yoma.
That's what I was saying. In our lives, if you.
But it's all one system. That doesn't mean it's higher or lower or more or less authentic. It's all one integral system. It's been around for thousands of years. The rabbis would recognize our Yom Kippur prayers for 100% sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there are angels in it.
And when we do Kedusha, when you see the Kadosh, we say, we're saying, the angels, seraphs, and everything. So there's a lot of, I'm trying to point out, this ideas of angels and heavens and thrones. They're in our liturgy, not only, well, as I said, this developed into our prayers.
Well, I need to let you all know we are now in trouble. Because we have 9 minutes. And the Dimi thing really does launch into quite a complex system. So I think we spent a lot of time talking about Dimi, but we didn't say what he said. So let's get into it just a little bit, and then know that next week we're going to really do this. All right, so Kiyata Rav Dimi. When Rav Dimi came, he said, Amar, Shmones rei klalot kilel Yeshayahu et Yisrael. Isaiah cursed the Jewish people 18 different ways. V'lo nit karara de dato ad she'amar lahem hamikra hazeh. And he wasn't satisfied, he didn't cool off, until he told them the following verse. Yirhabu hana'ar b'zaken v'hani klei b'nichbad. The beginning of the verse is the people will be oppressed man by man and man by his fellow until they will domineer the younger over the elder and the base over the respectable. What do you have as a translation of Isaiah?
The child shall behave insolently against the aged and the base against the honorable.
Okay. So the world it's going to be so bad that kids will disrespect their elders and ruffians will show no respect for those worthy of respect. Can you imagine a world where this takes place? It's been that way always, in some ways. My favorite quote of Cicero, it runs like this. I don't know the exact quote because I don't know the Greek, but the way I read it was, things are bad. Children don't listen to their elders, and everyone's writing a book.
Sounds like North
How
Times.
apropos to today.
It's self-publication, right? Okay, Shmona Esrei Klalot Mai Ninhu. So what are the eight? I mean, I want to know, what are the 18 curses, right? That's what the Gemara says right away. Dichtiv, and we're going to get into it. Ki hine Adon Adonai Tzvaot Mesir Mirushalayim U'Yehuda. For behold, the Lord God, Master of armies, is removing from Jerusalem and Judah Mash'en u'mash'ena, support and mainstay. Kol mish'an lechem v'chol mash'en mayim, every support of bread, every support of water. That's one. Gibor v'ish milchama, a hero and man of war. Shofet v'navi v'kosem v'zaken, judge, prophet, diviner, and elder. Sar chamishim u'neso fanim, captains of 50 and respected persons. By the way, does that ring a bell? Remember, captains of 50 was one of the characteristics of a person allowed to study the Merkavah? Earlier in the chapter? Yeah, it was. I think it was Rabbi Zera. Yeah, one of the characteristics necessary. All right, so this is cute because there's an intertextuality going on here between the earlier Gemara and this one. V'yoetz v'chacham charashim v'navom lachash, advisor, scholar of scholars, comprehender of whispers. V'natati ne'arim sarehem, and I will make your youngsters their leaders. V'talaluhem yimshalu bam, and mockers will rule them, etc. And the 18 things go like this. It's going to now parse the verse and give you the 18 curses. Mash'en, el ba'alei mikra. Support means the masters of the scriptures. Mashena, elu ba'alei mishnah, and this is a pun. Mashena, mishnah. It's just a pun. And mainstay refers to the masters of the Mishnah. Kigon Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema v'chavarav, like Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema and his colleagues. Plige, we're going to interrupt our list with an argument. Rav Papa and the rabbis can't help themselves. Here they come. Plige ba Rav Papa v'Rabbanan. Hanamar, one said that it's Shesh Ma'ot Sidrei Mishnah. It's the 600 orders of the Mishnah, as opposed to the 6 orders of the Mishnah we have today. Can you imagine how big the Mishnah would have been? V'chadamar Sheva Me'ot Sidrei Mishnah, and one said there were 700 orders of the Mishnah. Presumably they've all been lost as a punishment in the meantime. Kol mish'an lechem, getting back to our main topic, every support of bread. Elu ba'alei Talmud, this is the masters of the Talmud. So we're going down the people who will be destroyed in this and cursed. So you had the masters of the scripture, the masters of the Mishnah, maybe the loss of hundreds of tractates of Mishnah, the masters of the Talmud, Shne'emar u'shatu b'yayim misachti, and they will partake of my bread and drink the wine that I have mixed. The chol mish'an mayim, and every support of water. This is going to be elu ba'alei agadah shemoshechin libo shel adam kamayim va'agadah, refers to the masters of legends who draw on a person's heart or imagination as a person draws water through their teachings. Gibor zebaal shemuot, the gibor is a master of halachic teachings. Shemua means who did you hear it from, meaning legitimate lineage of teachings passed down from rabbi to pupil. Ve'ish milchama, that's not obviously a rabbi himself, it's not a Mishnah person himself, it's an Amora who has learned from a Rav. Ve'ish milchama zeh sheyodea lisev v'liten kamilchamta shel Torah. A man of war, this refers to the person who knows how to push and pull in the battles of Torah. So this becomes a Torah student, arguing and making points, pushing and pulling and so forth. Shofet, the dayan, shedan din emet lemito. The judge is a judge who knows how to render judgment that is absolutely true, to make it true. Navi mashma'o, a prophet is exactly what it sounds like. Kosem ze melech, and a kosem is not a magician, rather it means a king. Shenamar kesem al siftei melech, the divination on the lips of a king. Zaken ze shera'ui li shiva, and an old person means he's suitable for sitting. He's old enough he needs to sit, but yeshiva is a pun, and it means being in the yeshiva. Sar Chamishim, the captain of 50, Al Tikri'i Sar Chamishim, Ela Sar Chumashim. Don't make him a captain of 50, make him a master of the Chumash. V'zeh sheyodea lisav v'liten b'chamisha chumshei Torah. He knows also how to push and pull in the discussions of the 5 books of the Torah. Devar acher, the Gemara is going to jump in and say, well, I got another interpretation of that one. Sar Chamishim ka Rabbi Abahu. Rabbi Abahu said that the Sar Chamishim is Damar Rabbi Abahu. He said, Mikan she'ein ma'amidim miturgaman al tzibur pachot mechamishim shana. You derive that a translator should not be appointed to serve a community if he's less than 50 years old. So a Sar Chamishim is a 50-year-old who can take on a communal teaching role. Unaso fanim, and a respected person, zeh shenos'im panim l'doro ba'avuro l'ma'ala, refers to a person on whose behalf deference is shown from the generation above. In other words, God is obviously blessing him. Kagon Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, like Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, who was particularly blessed. The heavenly voice would come out in a legend in the Talmud and proclaim every day how great he was. By the way, we're going to see him show up in the later Gemara here too. Lamata, and a respected person below. Okay. Kagon Rabbi Abahu ben Kesar, like Rabbi Abahu at the palace of the Caesar. Yo'ech yodel le'aber shanim ve'likaboa chadashim. He's an advisor who knows how to calculate the months and the years into fixed months. He knows how to make leap years and so forth. He's smart with astronomy and math. V'chacham ze talmid mechakim et rabotav. The scholar here is a student who is so good he makes his own teachers look wise. Charashim b'sha'at shepotech b'divrei Torah, and the Charashim are scholars. Charashim means he begins discussing the words of the Torah. Hakol nasim kechershin. Everyone around them is struck deaf and mute in the brilliance of their presence. Univon ze hamevin davar mitoch davar. A navon, a comprehender, refers to one who can figure facts out from another fact, a thing from a thing. He can draw logical conclusions. Lachash, the whisperer, ze sharui limsor lo divrei Torah shenitna belachash. The whisperer is one who can transmit words of Torah that were passed down only in a whisper, which is again an allusion to our topic, that things have limits to how many things you can teach out loud, what can be taught out loud, and to how many people. Unatati ne'arim sarehem, I shall make youngsters their leaders. My vinatati ne'arim sarehem, and what does it mean? I will make the youth their leaders. Amar Rabbi Elazar, which started this whole thing a page ago, Elu b'nei adam she'noarim min ha-mitzvot. These are the people who are empty of mitzvot. Noar not meaning youth, but meaning min noar, meaning emptied out. And v'ta'alulim yimshalu bam, and mockers will rule over them. Amar Rav Papa Acha Bar Yaakov, and Rav Acha Bar Yaakov said, Tale b'nei Tale, they are foxes, the sons of foxes. Okay, so that works through this long passage out of Isaiah that has been interpreted as multiple curses against the people of Israel. But the Gemara has made every single one of these curses of Isaiah a curse related to your status as a Torah teacher or a Torah student. They've made this entire passage entirely the Torah study yeshiva. Right? Every single word is being interpreted as a relationship with Torah and Torah study.
This is all Brysos, isn't it? The whole thing
This whole thing is the Baraita.
from,
Well, it's not actually the whole thing is a Baraita. It's Gemara. This is when Rav Dimi came.
when Rabbi Tobin came. So you're
But that's
saying
not a
he brought-
Baraita. Rav Dimi is an Amora. He's a Talmudic age. He's not a Mishnah age teacher. He comes during the Jerusalem Talmud age and brings teachings to us.
Okay.
So this is actually Gemara. What would be interesting is this Gemara in the Jerusalem Talmud as well? Right? Is this a source text from the Yerushalmi that's been brought into the Bible? I don't know. It's worth looking up. This is the kind of stuff I'm like, if I got 5 minutes, I'm going to go try and find it. And we'll see. But this is all Gemara. This is all interpretation of a long passage.
What about Rabbi Abahu?
What about him?
Is he also from,
Rabbi Abahu is inside of this teaching.
right,
So Rav Dimi brought a teaching that includes Rabbi Abahu in it.
I see, okay.
Whether Rav Papa and the rabbis in the middle with that interruption is a later Gemara interruption into the Rav Dimi teaching, I don't know. But the whole Isaiah thing with Rabbi Abahu and Chanina Bardosa and Abahu in the Beis Kesar, all of that is in the Rav Dimi teaching.
Got it.
Now, the Gemara is going to go on, V'lo nit karara da'ato ad shamar lahem, and this idea that Isaiah was not satisfied until he said to them, Yarhavu hanar bazakein, that the younger will be dominant over the elder. Elu b'nei adam sheminoarim mina mitzvot, they're the people who are absent of mitzvot. Yarhavu b'mei memula b'mitzvot kerimon, they will domineer over the people who are full of mitzvahs like a pomegranate. Right, because pomegranates have so many seeds. The rabbis say that the pomegranates have 613 seeds. The pomegranate is the image of all the mitzvot in the Torah. V'hani kleb b'nichbad, and the base over the respectable, yavo misha chamurot domot alav bekalut, a person whose grave sins seem like light to him. You look at the chamur mitzvah, you look at thou shalt not kill, and you think it's like shotness. Who cares, I'll kill. Who cares, I'll eat treif. Who cares, I'll commit adultery. How serious can it be? Does God really care? That kind of person, they will come. And they will domineer over a person who is so trepidatious about their mitzvah that they'll think that even the tiniest sin is as serious as the big ones. Right? Which is a very pious person. Constantly yirat chet, yirat shemayim. Okay. Put a petik in it. We'll stop right there. Okay? Next time we're going to pick up Amar Rav Kitina, okay, which is going to be a response to that whole passage. All right, that's what we'll pick up next time on 14a on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th line from the bottom. Not bad. We got a lot done. See you next week.